How you doing, Toby? Good to have you here. So, yeah, let's start by kind of sharing a bit more about your story behind kind of H&H Talent Solutions.
Yeah, for sure. So I was in international logistics for 15 plus years, ran branches, traveled the world. Sounds a little more glamorous than what it really was, actually, and was fairly successful. I had a great team around me. It wasn't just me, but I was kind of wherever I went within international logistics and specifically within what's called maritime freight forwarding. Although we did air freight as well, was just to kind of be treated as a number, to be told one thing and then paid another way from a commission standpoint. And so I had some really great people that I worked with, some really amazing teams around me, but, you know, was sat down at the end of a successful 7 year stint at one Fortune, 300 company and told that I made too much money. And so it was really cool document, Sam, called Toby's ROI to the name of the company. um, I slid it across the desk to my boss, who I knew was a numbers guy, right? I slid it across the table. He looked at it and balled it up, threw it in the trash, got up, slammed the door behind him, and kind of left me embarrassed in his office. And I have stories like everybody has stories like that, right? When they're at companies and just don't feel valued. And so it finally ended with me being fired in 2016 by a freight forwarder in Charlotte. And really come to find out, he had tapped me on the shoulder, paid me way more than anybody else on the market to help him build up a particular product in the Charleston port here in South Carolina. And at the end of 11 months, I and others, wasn't just me alone, but helped build his branch up from one person to about 5 people. And that was largely based on some business that I had sold and brought over. And then the axe came, and I found out about a week beforehand that the axe came, that it was kind of all part of the program, just to show a balance statement. And so um, everybody has those kind of stories. And so I called a buddy of mine after getting fired, a little disillusioned, and said, "Hey, man, will you pray for me? And I think you do something in the recruiting space. And will you look at my resume and just let me know if it looks good?" And he immediately got back to me and told me to talk to this particular person in his office. She would look at my resume, and then he prayed for me, and then ultimately called me back a couple hours later and said, "Hey, man, like, why don't you come work for me?" And I was like, "Well, that's just kind of crazy, man. Like, I have all these kids. I have 8 children, and my wife stays at home, and so but I got some wisdom from my wife, who said, like, why would you keep going back into freight forwarding and expect anything to change? And so why don't you just go work for Charlie?" And so I made the jump into recruiting with a company called Agile Partnering in 2017, early 2017, late 2016, and kind of learned the ropes, and was kind of out in like I was mainly on the sales side of things, and was going out grabbing staffing business and recruiting, direct hire placement recruiting. And then he kind of came up with an idea. I'm sure he stole it from somebody as well, called fractional recruiting. And it was just this idea that you would work per hour for your particular client, like not a retained model. Like, if you haven't heard of this model, it's a little bit different, but kind of work hourly with your clients. Give them a lot of information, a lot of communication, but you're typically saving 40 to 60% over the high cost traditional recruiting fees. And so I did that for a couple of years, and then he helped launch me into my business in 2019 when I started H&H Consulting. Now I primarily use H&H Talent Solutions because I'm primarily a fractional recruiter at this point. I do some career coaching and some business coaching as well. But at the end of the day, I'm a fractional recruiter. I want to connect my clients to people that are to work they're made for and love. And you do that by understanding people's natural skills and abilities where it intersects with their passions. And so I've been doing that now for about 6 years.
Amazing. Yeah, that's an amazing journey. Did I hear you right? You said you had 8 children.
I do. Yes, sir.
Eight. Wow.
It's joyous chaos, chaotic joy, depending on the moment of the time.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I have one, and he's enough. Yeah, fair play to you.
Well, going from 0 to 1 was the hardest for me.
Yeah. They people do say that. I do hear that quite a lot. That's amazing. What sort of companies do you typically work with?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, because of the fractional model, I'm not really limited in the type of companies that I work with, the type of industries. Like, I'm really industry agnostic, I like to say. And that's like another one of the benefits, I believe, to the fractional recruiting model is I charge a flat rate no matter what the role is, no matter what the industry is, no matter how many people that they're wanting to hire out of that same candidate pipeline. So if I spin up one candidate pipeline and 5 people come out of the end of it, it's the same price. Like I don't charge per head. But primarily over the last 6 years, technology, I throw a pretty wide net around tech, ed tech, developers, engineers, nonprofit tech companies, a little bit of everything. Also, engineering firms, law firms, you name it. Like I have basically found and been successful for my clients finding webinar moderators, a term I'd not really heard before, all the way down to a receptionist. I worked for one of my clients and found him a nanny, which I don't recommend because you start getting really personal when you do that. But ultimately, I'm very agnostic when it comes to industries, but have worked for door manufacturers and fence companies all the way up to Fortune 100 companies, helping them kind of scale up and do some staff augmentation. So it just depends.
Yeah, yeah, a bit of everything. Yeah, interesting. So yeah, obviously the job market is ultra competitive right now. How are you helping your clients stand out in this climate?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I really preach to my clients is retention and coming up with really good ways to not only engage with quality talent and go kind of create the better mousetrap, but ultimately to keep the people that you have. I'm very selective in the companies that I work for because my company is all about connecting people to work that they're made for and love. And, like I don't want to grab somebody out of a really good situation and put them somewhere toxic. Again, that's why I like the fractional model. I don't have to get somebody hired in order to make money. So therefore, I don't come at it from the angle of how do I get this person hired, but is this really going to be a fit for my client? But ultimately, I am talking to them about retention, like how to retain their people. Like, what are you doing to take care of your people now? Like how many PTO days are you giving? Like what are you doing in terms of your onboarding process and having a clear path to getting them into and plugged into leadership later on. And so it's really all about retention is kind of what I'm telling people. But in order to stand out now, like you want to talk about your culture, you want to talk about your values. Obviously, that's really popular to do. It's really hard to live that out. Like it's hard to it's easy to throw up values on a wall, Sam, right? But it's really hard to actually live those out and hire to those values and fire to those values. And so that's another conversation that I typically have with ownership or an executive team, a C-suite, is really all about what are your values? Can you articulate your values to me in a quick 30 seconds? Or are you going to hem and haw when I ask you about your values? And if that's the case, then I like to take my clients through kind of a value prep meeting and do some personality assessments and like all that fun stuff. But ultimately, it's about retention.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, culture fit is so important these days, isn't it? And you hear it everywhere now. It's one of the main things recruiters have to look for, don't they? Really?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, like it's really like when I start talking about culture and value fit, uh, it I feel like it immediately sets me apart, which like I don't think it should, but it immediately sets me apart from kind of the traditional methods. And I'm not here to bash traditional recruiters because I love them and direct hire placement. Traditional recruiting is kind of where I cut my teeth, but I just feel like there's a better way to do it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I come across the stat the other day. I think it was 76% of hiring managers say they struggle to find good candidates. Do you think this is a true talent shortage, or are companies just not looking in the right places?
I think it's a little bit of both, but I do think that it probably lands more on that they don't know where to go to find really good talent, and they don't really know. Like they open up a job ad on the big boys, the LinkedIn and Indeeds of the world, and they post some copy that's pretty boring, and they just expect to get a couple hundred applicants because they know their company, even though they haven't expressed that in a job description. And I don't think a job description wins you the best candidates. I do think it can help though. Like I think it can have the best candidates pass over what you're offering if you don't know how to write good copy. And with AI, like there's really no excuse not to write good copy anymore. And so, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And what about headhunting? Do you see much of that going on? Is it still happening?
for sure. Yeah, no, like I think that that's kind of what I see is the primary competitors that I run up against are headhunters. And I think there's a place for them from an executive level, maybe. But that model to me is kind of more about turn and burn and just look at the bank account, which is great. Listen, if that's what you want to do. But ultimately, like I want to connect people to work they're made for and love. It takes a little more time. I do some assessments on the front end. I love, and like I'll tip my hand, like I love Criteria Core. It's a great service that allows me to run some high level personality profiles as well as some cognitive assessments. And like instead of just throwing resumes at a client, I'm giving more than one data point. I'm giving resumes, I'm giving, personality profile, I'm giving a cognitive assessment, I'm giving a quick write up, to them. And so like they have 4 or 5 different data points in order to be able to make a really good informed decision. I think headhunting, again, like headhunting has a negative sort of side to it. Like I don't think it's all negative to go reach out to people that are in certain roles and see if they're happy and then place them into roles that like where they're going to be happy. I just don't see a lot of the making sure that they're going to be happy part.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get what you mean, for sure. And what does employee branding mean to you, and what should companies be focusing on?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, like I really think that from a employee branding standpoint, like one of the best things that they can do is kind of put those testimonials from their people on their website. Like I see companies that effectively attract other, candidates are the ones that are giving incentives to their people to bring new candidates to the table. And with my model, like that doesn't hurt my model. Like it's not something that, causes me to kind of pull my hair out because they're taking away business from me, because I'm, again, coming alongside my client, helping them make good decisions around the hiring process, more of an external working of an internal mechanism that's going on. And so like some of the best companies that brand themselves well will have those employee testimonials and are actively gathering candidates based on their people, and they're incentivizing their people to do that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, for sure. And obviously, we know that the tech has been rapidly evolving over the last few years. Do you think companies are adapting fast enough to build modern teams with modern skills?
Yeah, no, I don't think they are. And I think one of the reasons why is that, like, especially in the States where I'm at, you just don't have a lot of focus and attention uh, on skills. You have it more on your diploma. And so, like, I think this is one of the things that's kind of broken in higher ed right now is a lot of people just think the natural next step is to go to university instead of really figuring out what they want to do long term. Like I do think that in the States, in certain places, in some of the larger kind of tech markets, you're seeing a lot of good things happen around coding schools and the like. But ultimately, it's more about pushing kids to go to get a 4 year degree when they really don't need to, specifically in technology. Like when you think about these different coding schools and kind of what they offer and coming out of those with that skill set, versus coming out with $100,000 worth of debt, like you're immediately going in and making money. um, everybody's got a GitHub and they're doing really cool stuff with it. You don't really need to go to college in order to do that, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I totally agree. Yeah, that's another big debate kind of going on in the UK as well. The amount to go through like university and college, it's just crazy money.
Yeah.
You need young,
Down for the next 10, 15
yeah, yeah,
years if you're coming out, coming, which we need really good teachers. It's like the system's broken, and if you send your child, to go be a teacher, and he or she comes out with 100, pounds worth of debt, like 100K worth of debt. I mean, they'll be paying that off for 20 years. Like it'll be a millstone around their neck.
yeah,
And yet we need really good teachers. So they need to go to university to do that. So we got to figure something out.
yeah, yeah. Definitely, it's a tricky one. Another big debate is the kind of work from home, remote kind of office debate. What's your views on that, and
Yeah.
what's been working best for your clients?
Yeah. So I actually encourage my clients to hire remote employees if they've thought through how to manage them. I think where it gets sideways is if you don't have a program and a process in place to manage them from afar, to make them feel a part of the team, to have some level of accountability, then yeah, it's going to go horribly wrong. But I also think if you want the best people on your team, or actually, like the way that I typically say it, because it's tongue in cheek, is if you don't want the best people on your team, then only hire people on site, because the best people want to be remote. They've got a taste during the COVID years for a work life balance that they've never experienced before. And the best people are not going to go back in unless their personality aligns with being in an office. There's some people that are amazing workers that would rather be around people, would rather be in the office. They don't do well at home. And so I think it just depends on the kind of work that you're doing. There's certain work that's just not geared towards remote, but I think that that's probably 10 to 15% of industries out there are not geared toward remote work. I think the vast majority are. Like, I can tell you, whenever I engage with a client who is looking for remote work, I fill those roles very, very quickly for them. My billable hours are very low. They're getting amazing deals. I'm finding people in 20 to 30 hours for them, versus 50 to 70 hours for some roles that are in site. And we're getting thousands of applicants that we can run through assessments and really finding the smartest people that are made for that particular job. That's not going to happen with an on-site job. It hasn't happened for me with an on-site job in 6 years, where I'm able to get thousands of applicants and run them through these assessments and know that you're coming out with the best person in the marketplace at that time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's no wrong answer, is there? It's like you said. It's for some individuals it works, for some it doesn't. For some companies it works, but some it doesn't. I think the main thing is these companies these days just need to be a bit more flexible.
100%.
Because some companies are just losing out on some really good candidates being a bit too rigid. But yeah, the debate will carry on
Yeah,
furthermore.
it will. It will, like, especially when you have, so many high profile people around the world sort of, decrying that remote work is horrible. Like, sometimes it is. Like, if you're not managing people, like if you're just letting them kind of do what they want for the last 5 years and you've never checked in on them, sure. I mean, people are people, but there's got to be a good way to do it, to your point.
Yeah, for sure. If someone's struggling to, say, land interviews, where do you think they should start? Is it their resume? Is it networking? Is it LinkedIn? What's the main things you say would help?
Yeah, so like I have a side of my business that I do. Like, it really kind of developed more from friends connecting me to people that were looking for jobs, and so then I kind of spun up a kind of a career search, job coaching side of my business. It's a small side of what I do. It's actually really enjoyable, though, to kind of help people that even have been in the workplace for 20, 30 years, and them not really understand kind of the best way to market themselves. And so I think it's all of what you mentioned. I think it's a resume tweak to make it like parse it down. Like, people like to have 3 and 4 pages, right? And as recruiters and HR people, we look at resumes for about 8 seconds, as you know. And to really highlight their skill set at the top of that resume, to get on their LinkedIn page and just give them some tips and tricks around, you know don't use the default image on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
Put a picture up and kind of help them with some of their, copy and text. But I think networking as well. Like, the way I tell my candidates that I work with that are, in the job market would be, tapping into your social capital. And that includes LinkedIn, includes Facebook, Instagram, whatever you're on, Twitter, letting people know that you're looking. Also, doing a revamp of your LinkedIn page, because it probably needs it. Getting some recommendations on there is huge. And like, none of these things in and of themselves are going to land you a job, but they're going to help you, because the first thing that people are going to do, recruiters, companies, are going to go to these places and sort of see if you look legit or not. It's the same thing with my business, right? Like, I'm out there, I'm doing the cold emails just like everybody else, and doing marketing, and they're initially going to get on my website and say, does he look legit or not? And so I love the 3-pronged approach to doing networking, like going to the network events in your area, making connections with people in those specific industries that you want to be in. I guarantee you there's tons of them now. Like, they went away for a while, but they're back. Getting on your LinkedIn page and doing online searches, but then looking for companies in your area, and not just doing searches where you're putting your resume in a stack of 100 other people, but you're actually making that next step of reaching out to who you believe the hiring manager to be. And now on LinkedIn and other places, they tell you who the hiring manager is. Yes, they're the gatekeeper. I get it. But you can find who their boss is and send them an email to let them know that you just applied for this job and how excited you would be to have an interview. And then typically that person's going to kick an email down to the HR person, who, as we know, we love HR people, but they typically have no power. And so you have somebody like in the C-suite telling them to now make a connection, and then you just got your resume to the top because you sent an email. It's super simple.
Yeah, I think LinkedIn especially is so crucial now, isn't it? It's almost your second CV. I'd
Yeah,
say it's maybe equally as important now, isn't it? Your LinkedIn, without a doubt. Yeah, and like you said, that making them connections is so vital. You can, like you said, send an email, send a voice note even to to the top boss, and that's just going to help you massively, isn't it?
it takes 30 seconds, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, and you're top of
When
mind.
I talk to candidates, people that are going through my process, 99% of them have never thought to do that. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a free tip for everybody.
it is a very good tip. Yeah, yeah, I use a lot of them myself. So, what trends do you think will shape the future of recruitment over the next few years?
I mean, certainly AI has got to be at the top of the list in terms of companies coming in and trying to streamline that process themselves. You know, APIing into an ATS system to kind of automatically put out some lines in the water. I think it's going to be great. And I think from a fractional recruiting standpoint, it's only going to enhance what I'm doing. I think there's going to be some traditional recruiters that are going to have to change some of the things that they're doing and the way that they're doing it, because companies are going to have access to top tiered candidates potentially on their own with kind of the rise of AI. You know, I'm using AI in my business daily. Like, one of the biggest ways I do it is voice transcription with candidates to just transcribe a call to throw it into my AI and spit out a really nice candidate fit assessment that I send to my candidate. Like, they think I'm a hero. I tell them I use my AI to do it, but
Yeah,
like, you look like a hero. But like, I think that's one of the trends is just AI. Like, I think also we're kind of too soon to tell in this particular administration in the States on what all the tariffs are going to mean. There's a pause on them right now. Like, I definitely think that that's going to be people in uh, like, not just supply chain, because again, supply chain touches every single industry in our country, save a couple, maybe healthcare. And then even there, you can see it touching that because of the supply chain of medicine getting through. So I definitely think some of it's like, in terms of trends, are still developing. But I definitely think some of the quick moving things that this administration is doing around tariffs and what they do in the next 79 days is going to be key as well.
yeah, yeah, for sure. It's interesting to see how where AI comes in recruitment, how far it goes, because it's such a personable industry, isn't it? AI recruitment. So yeah, it's an interesting one. AI in recruitment, it really is. I'm just intrigued to see where it goes.
Me too.
But yeah, Toby, it's been a great conversation. Where can our audience find out a bit more about yourself and about H&H Talent Solutions?
Yeah, so if you go to hnatalent there's a real quick uh, explanation of what I do. And yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, and like, would love to have any conversations with anybody out there that is looking to do recruiting in a different way.
Yeah, excellent, great stuff. Well, thanks for that. Appreciate your time today. This has been the Thought Leader Recruit Podcast, and we'll catch you next time.